Representative Rashida Tlaib spoke on the House floor because the standalone bill that the Republicans were floating to just send Israel billions and billions of dollars failed.
The anti-imperialist Republicans?
Yes. Yeah, the ones that hate war. They needed 2/3 in the House to suspend the rules to push this vote forward, a standalone bill to send Israel billions of dollars in the midst of its genocide. And they did not get the 2/3 that they needed, thankfully. Now, as we speak, the Senate is working on, and Senate Republicans are working on, a supplemental aid package that includes billions to Israel, billions to Ukraine, billions to Taiwan that they're working on. But hopefully we could be saved by some Republicans who are standing against Ukraine money and some progressives who are beginning to, I think, get a little bit more confident in their opposition to Israel. And it's often framed, and I think they see this as politically helpful, to frame it as Netanyahu being the big bad as opposed to the overall structure of what Israel represents. But from a political perspective, because you hear so many liberal Zionists say, I hate Netanyahu, but, well, if you can make it about Netanyahu, I do think that's more politically salient. And Rashida Tlaib is leading the charge here. This was her, as the one Palestinian American in Congress, speech on the floor in opposition to this bill. And I like this because she says the word and she says what they're doing. She says genocide. And I think this is the first mention or significant accusation that Israel is committing a genocide in the U.S. House.
Here we go again. Sending $17.6 billion U.S. tax dollars with no conditions attached to Netanyahu's extremist government to drop more bombs on innocent Palestinians. The Israeli government has already killed 27,000 people. 11,500 of them were children. I'm tired of my colleagues coming to me whispering, I don't really like Netanyahu. Well, then why are we sending him billions of dollars with no conditions? He literally is telling us over and over again what his intention is. I'm tired of my colleagues coming and whispering to me, Rashida, I support two-state solution. Great, then send money that conditions for a two-state solution, because Netanyahu has over and over again told us he never wants to see a Palestinian state. So I'm tired. I oppose Netanyahu's war crimes and want him gone too. But many of my colleagues that continue to tell me that do not want to condition the aid. They give it to a genocidal maniac. My message to my colleagues is simple. If you don't support Netanyahu, if you're disgusted by the countless videos of lifeless children pulled out of the rubble, if you actually believe in upholding human rights and international law, vote no on a blank check to Netanyahu's genocide.
Gentlelady's time's expired.
Thank you.
Time's expired, but thank you for getting the genocide thing in there, because there are legal definitions of this. You know, it's not just about vibes, it's not just about feels. Genocide has a legal, internationally recognized definition under the Genocide Convention. And as we have laid out many times over in this program, I feel no qualms about calling it a genocide all the time. No. Because I want to democratize the power of the word. It's not just something you read about passively in history. It's not just something that has happened before. And it's not just the Holocaust. Like, the Holocaust was distinctly the Holocaust in its effort to eliminate the entire Jewish population, one of the worst crimes in the history of humanity. 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust, and millions of others, Roma, queer people targeted as well. But like, genocides don't have to constitute the elimination of the entire population of a group. They are marked by Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, and Israel is in violation of A, B, C, and D. I've gone through it before. It's quite clear they have been in violation of it many, many times over. So this is a moment to keep saying that word, to understand that these words do have meaning. They have meaning under international law, and that applies to everybody, including the top recipient of U.S. military aid.
And they should have obligations too.
And what's so amazing too about this is, even though Rashida Tlaib, I think, is the only member of Congress who is currently right now openly calling it a genocide, the numbers on this are staggering. In 4 months, 49% of Democrats, according to an Economist YouGov poll, believe that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. That is a plurality. Only 21% reject the genocide description altogether. 30% do not know. And then you see how that support for the genocide description is concentrated. I mean, this is, I really appreciate Jeet here opening his piece the other week with these figures, because it's 40% of black people, according to this, accept the genocide description, 46% of Hispanic people, and 49% of voters 18 to 29 believe Israel is committing genocide. Plurality positions, as Jeet writes, in each cohort. And the 49% figure, as I mentioned, of Democrats, Democratic voters, the biggest block there in response, feels that it is a genocide. And so the fact that that is where that is what people believe so quickly, like the conversation about Israel has turned to that, without members of Congress making the case publicly to define that term, shows how obvious this is. How obvious this is. And she's right. Like, I think the fact that there were only like 43, 46, if I recall, Democrats who, can you clarify that number for me, who voted in favor of suspending the rules to push the standalone bill through, and the rest of the Democrats sided with humanity, with Rashida Tlaib, and AOC was on the House floor and had a strong speech as well. Rashida Tlaib is right that there are whispers, and there are Democrats that are terrified of AIPAC coming after them, that are talking to her behind the scenes and trying to, say, well, I stand, like, being very, very subtle about it.
How pathetic.
But it's pathetic, as she says.
How pathetic that you are an elected member of the United States of America and you're afraid of this. What should be a rogue state, what should be a prize state, but that is actually a favored nation to get our bombs and our lies across the world. It's supremely pathetic. And I wonder about these people who say, I don't like Netanyahu. Like, what? What is it really? Like, you object to Netanyahu, but not actually the fundamental, what about the occupation?
Right.
What about the settlements? A two-state solution. Like, do you really think the obstacle is the Palestinians? Like, this is infantile.
Netanyahu rejected basically the very reasonable Hamas ceasefire proposal out of hand. Where there would be 3 separate phases of full hostage returns and then an exchange of Palestinian prisoners and a ceasefire. He basically said no categorically to it. And that's just not I know that, like, whatever, Netanyahu's approval is like 15% or something in Israel. Whoever's going to come in his place, they won't have the added pressure of, like, his entire political career is based on continuing this war. But they will still be genocidal because the support right now among the Israeli population for this crime of genocide just miles away from where they live. I mean, this is like the level of indoctrination that we're talking about here, and propaganda.
Look at the polls. Israel, 90% approve of the bombing, more, and then of the remainder, more think that there should be more than less.
Exactly. This has to come from the outside, from pressure from the United States, removing funding unequivocally, and I mean, conditioning it is not enough. But that's where, like, our discourse is right now. We are so behind where the Democratic voting base is on this right now. And it's because of AIPAC. It's because of money in politics. It's because of fear. It's because of all of these things. And just like a general anti-Arab racism that is so pernicious and so widely accepted in our culture. It's astounding to me. It really is at this point. But more Democrats. Let's go. Start to say these things publicly, because history is not going to look kindly on this moment.
Clock's ticking. Yep.
JR in Philly says Bernie called for cutting funding on Seth Meyers' show and got an ovation from the crowd. Yep. I saw that too. And good for Seth Meyers, because I don't think any other late night hosts are, like, even talking about Gaza. It's all Trump stuff, right? I don't watch that, but I would imagine that's the case.
Sounds like you're so fantastic.
I don't know who you're being.
Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, yeah. Dear God. Like, he's the last one. I mean,
He's still on air.
I guess. God, how...
14 years,
We've
15
really
years at this
fallen
point.
far from like the Johnny Carson, Dave Letterman era of Conan.
We used to be a
even.
country.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's more than 4 channels now.
Yes, I know, but like that like sacred space of fucking.
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's
sorry, I'm sorry
degraded.
so much. It's become so corporate. It's
It's degraded, decadence.
Yep.